order?
It's just going to be one off. Everyone ready? The only ethical demand available to modern politics is that of the slave and the savage. The demand for the end of America itself described one of the belly slaves and the churning vertigo constitution of genocide, exposed the grammar of the affirmative calls for larger institutional access and fundamental fortification of white settler slave master civil society by diversionary focus on the ethicality of the policy practices of the United States opposed to the question of its very existence. Wilson 07. When I was in Colombia, there was a black woman who used the scandals at the gate, yelled at white Latinos, East and East, South Asian. She accused them of having stolen her slope and selling her into slavery. She always winked at the blacks, though we didn't wink back. Some of us thought outbursts we bigoted and out of step with the burgeoning ethos of multiculturalism and the Rainbow Coalition. Others did not, because we were too fearful of the possibility that our isolation would become our isolation. Yet later, when I attended UC Berkeley, I saw a Native American man sitting on the sidewalk and signing for the pedestrians that here was where they could settle the land leasing accounts that they had neglected to settle all their lives. It would seem that the structure or the grammar of their demands and the grammar of their suffering was indeed an ethical grammar. Their grammars are the only ethical grammars available to modern politics. The modernity writ large, but they draw our attention to the divines that underlies modern world's capacity to think, act, and exist. Spatially and temporally, the woman in Colombia was not demanding to participate in an unethical network. Rather, she was articulating triangulation between, on the one hand, the loss of her body and the very dereliction of her corporeal integrity. She gave birth to the commodity to the human, yet she had neither the subjectivity nor so this report in her eyes. The world was unethical. The world passed by her without the slightest inclination to stop its abuse to her of her claim. Instead, it calls her crazy. What does the world attribute to the Native American man's insanity? He's crazy if he thinks he's getting any money out of us. Surely that doesn't make him crazy. Rather, it simply means that it is simply an education that he does not have a big enough gun. Why are these questions so scandalous that they are rarely posed politically and intellectually, unless they are posed obliquely and unconsciously, as if by accident, repaired to the demolished subjectivity of slave, 2 simple sentences, 12 simple words, and the structure of the U.S. attack would be dismantled, and ethical modernity would no longer sound like an oxymoron when pared down to 12 words and 2 sentences. One cannot but wonder why questions that go to the heart of the ethical political questions of political ontology are so unspeakable and intellectual meditations, political broadsides. And skip the next card. Refuse the metaphysical blackmail of the resolution is counter disruptions of moral legitimacy of America. Wilson 11. To participate would be to recognize legitimacy. The court to criminalize political acts when they did appear was to make statements condemning white supremacy and U.S. imperialism. The power to pose questions, the greatest power of all, to shift the terms of adjudication from moral questions of guilt and innocence to ethical questions of state power. Future fruits of this kind counter-hegemonic context, the transformation of common sense of apprehensive cooperation with cops and the good sense non-cooperation with cops can also be glimpsed by teams down to the plethora of progressives who began their testimony by announcing that they would not answer any of the questions put to them and focusing on making the system tolerable, zero-sum with revolutionary analysis. Rodriguez 08. Crisis necessitates critical examination of political and institutional logic that structure the U.S. left politics of a subject for acting to shift the work of the most progressive movements of less willingness to tolerate and unwillingness to abolish institutionalizing dehumanization of contemporary policing and imprisonment apparatus behind its end of progressive and liberal reformist struggles over public policy. There is an unspoken politics of assumption that takes for granted the mystified permanence of domestic warfare. The left does not care to envision the abolition of U.S. domestic warfare. And modernity is only possible through slavery, which is why blackness is a private question. Wilderson 10. Without gratuitous violence that marks black ontological, even emancipatory discourse of modernity, post-colonialism, political discourse predicated on grammar, suffering, and constituent elements, or exploitation and alienation might not have developed to shift how slavery did not simply re-territorialize the ontology of the African, also created the human culturally disparate entities from Europe to the East. Prisoners could expect death, but never enslavement of Europeans was beyond the limits of humanism existential comments. The basis of the option was not debated when it came to the African race of humanism could not produce itself without the simultaneous production of that walking destruction known as the plot. And their conception of a monolithic interpretation of masculinity as being the cause of violence against women specifically is problematic because it ignores the way that men and masculinities are ranked in particular hierarchies which sweep the oppression of that men of color face globally under the rugged blocks men of color into systems of oppression. Mujibwa 13. Men are not monolithic. Men and masculinities are ranked in a hierarchy by how they present and act or how they appear and behave. They should not act, present, or be like women, effeminate, or gay, even though not all gay men are effeminate. They instead should present, act, or be physically and emotionally strong, heterosexual, and in control, or manly. Men who appear or act or in fact are not physically and emotionally strong, heterosexual, or in control often are seen not as not men or as lesser men in the gender system. Male identity is privilege, however, that privilege may be compromised by behavior or some other intersecting categories such as race, class, or disability. In the case of men of color, such as Latino men, his identity sits at the intersection of privilege category and a subordinated category, the meaning of which turns on context and what his assumed gender privilege actually may be an additional source of oppression. And label this the representation dissad. Representing the experience of rape of women of color should be off limits because it replicates ability for Western thinking to control and define the existence of the colonized, which turns all of their arguments about the negative ramifications of the way the military views these women now. Tuck and Yang 14. Knowledge of became the justification for the acquisition of bodies and rule over them. The right to control, to conquer is intimately connected to the right to know I know. Therefore I conquer, therefore I am. To place limits on the colonization of knowledge by marking what is off limits, what is not up for. To speak of limits makes liberal thinkers uncomfortable. And the representation gets subsumed by the academy and reproduces academic settler superiority. Tuck and Yang 14. Fixation in eliciting pain stories from communities that are not white, not wealthy, and not straight is troubling for its voyeurism and for its consumptive implacability, imagining itself to be the voice of the colonized. The work of the academy is to reproduce stories of oppression in its own voice, not an emerging eager to launch pain-based inquiry projects. Believe that such approaches embody what it means to do social science, the collection of pain narratives, and the theory. The theories of change that champion the value of such narratives are so prevalent, one might surmise that they are. Oh, the Academy is about me need to hear your voice when I can talk about you better than you can speak about yourself. I'm still the author authority, I'm still colonized and speaking subject, and you are not at the center of my talk. Research is concerned with providing recognition to the voices of the researcher herself. It's made anew by telling back the story of the marginalized subaltern project. They forces that invite those on the margin to speak from that space, and is a sign of deprivation, of wounded, unfulfilled longing. Only speak your pain. Even worse, the representation of these experiences are used by Western liberal thinkers to define these into colonized people, trapping them in a system of ongoing colonization. Top 9. There's an implicit assurance that stories of damage payoff and political wins. It is powerful to think of putting the world on trial, but a content has been made invisible and natural, dismissing ongoing colonization. Without context, we're left with a damage. This makes the stories vulnerable to pathologizing analyses. There was a need for research that exposed the uninhabitable and inhumane conditions. However, a time for shift has come. Alternatives to craft research to capture desire instead of damage. A desire-based framework counteract the effects of frameworks that position communities as damaged. Desire-based research frameworks are concerned with complexity. People are more than broken and conquered. The current movement favors privatization and the withdrawal of public support to construct various images of responsibility. Images bolster state policies regarding shrinking social assistance. And vote next to reject the parasitic epistemology of the 1AC and endorse paradigmatic analysis through a program of complete disorder that orients us toward the end of the world. Willerson 7. Slavery is the leveler of the black subject, does not generate historical categories off the map with respect to civil society. Semiotic displays in a structurally impossible position outside the articulation of hegemony. Present works back on the grammar of hegemony and threatens it with incoherence. That subject presence destabilizes all other analog. Decolonization is a program of complete disorder. No other body functions in the imaginary, the symbolic, or the real. As a repository of complete disorder is black, is the side of absolute dereliction. It's magnetizing of both the black body functions as the map of gratuitous violence. Black generates no categories of history. Whoever says race says black, says prison says black, AIDS says black. The Negro is a photogenic object, social movement, structure of political desire. Should assume the positionality of subjects of social death. The Negro has been inviting whites to death of social death, but political desire is anti-black. Black liberation makes radicalism dangerous condition of possibility. Function as a negative dialectic politics refuses to affirm a program of complete disorder, embracing coherence. No one has been known to say, gee, what's only my orgasm will end a little sooner. If only black race should be more coherent, or maybe not come at all. Coalitions are remain anorgasmic in the face of civil society. The black subject beckons incoherence is scandal. Red civil society is under an endless antagonism must be pursued to the death. CS.
Alright, on one of the first of your cards, you talk about how we defend a system. Which system are you referring to?
Which card are you talking about?
Yeah, it is.
You defend the state, and you operate within state politics. When you say that PMC should be PMC should be removed or eliminated completely, you fail to ask the right question, right? The question you ask is whether or not military presence are good. The question the negative poses is whether or not America is ethical or not. And we say that that's the starting point because that's the only way that you can resolve instances of anti-black violence.
All right, and then let's see. You go on to talk about how we shouldn't be able. Okay, where's the card? We shouldn't be able to read these perspectives and all of that. However, we clearly said that this is their words that they are giving.
That is like a capturing actually of part of the essence of their argument, right? Is that you are saying like we're speaking about their stories. These are their stories, but we are the ones that could present it properly to you because we're using the white.
So
there are two arguments there.
Actually, I have another question about that. So your alternative is like negative, constant, unflinching paradigmatic analysis. How does that? Like, in what world of the alternative do you present these images, these stories, these depictions of suffering? How, so right now, status quo is they're not being
present any images of suffering.
So nobody knows about their suffering. So I guess what does
People
that do?
do know about it, but we're not
How in the
presenting
alternative do they know about them? That's my question.
How do they know about the sexual violence that's happening?
Yeah.
So women.
So a story, so a person that asked for their story to be published.
It has already been presented into the world, right?
Right, but arguably by a Western news source that's bad.
Your discussion, I'm saying, is not unique.
Okay, in a world in which these stories are not told because we refuse
but
to
the stories
tell them,
have been told.
I actually haven't asked my question yet.
Okay.
In a world in which we don't tell them, the alternative is letting them. No, in a world in which we have
But
not
they
done
have
that.
been told.
That's
You
fine.
already said they were released to Western journalists
Yeah.
that spread them around
So
the
like
world.
for future
You know,
stories,
refer
that
to
have
the
not
tuck
been
evidence.
published, what is the alternative? For future stories, people want to tell their stories.
Well,
They
I
want
would
them
say
out,
that
but we haven't
form
done
of
that.
violence
How else
wouldn't
do that?
happen in the world of the alternative. We would
How
solve
do
the
you
effects of
resolve
the case.
PMC violence?
That'll be in the 2NC. I'll tell you how the alternative
That's
solves
what I'm
case.
asking you. How do you solve PMC violence?
Well, PMCs, right? The question is not whether or not PMC violence should be resolved or not. Rather, the question we should pose ourselves is the ethicality of the system which allowed PMCs to be created and exist, right?
So I think
If you resolve PMC violence, sexual violence will manifest itself in other anti-black ways in the world that the AF can never account for.
So talking about that Tech and Young evidence, if we reproduce in their own voices the quotation marks, does that still violate your alternative? Like we're presenting their stories from their own words.
You see, if we are presenting their stories, and
Yeah. The
Okay.
question
you should not
still about
even
Okay,
even
I
if
guess
even
you
if
have
it is
desire-
these.
Sorry, so why in the 1NC did you not read their stories?
Well, the Tuck and Yang argument also goes on to say that it's this sort of rhetoric that George Bush used, like, to invade Iraq. He said these women are oppressed, they have to cover their faces, etc. It triggered empathy in all the white people in America, and they thought that, let's invade them and shit.
Yep.